Of the Pulse, where we go through the arm wrestling subreddit, look at all the interesting posts, answer some questions from the community. How do you train pronation? How do you train back pressure? Did I do well in this match of mine? And of course, you are hosts, Ryan Turner, myself, and Derek Smith. Derek, how we doing?
I'm doing good, man. I got like a little half cup of Red Bull here just because I couldn't find anything else to drink. I usually don't drink Red Bull, but excited to be here. I haven't been doing a ton of live content or even YouTube content for that matter, but excited to be here. Excited.
Good, man. 10 episodes, dude. There are mainstream TV shows that don't make it this far. Look at us.
Our ratings have been off the charts. Biggest show on the internet. So
biggest show on the internet. Yes, indeed. Marius knows it. Welcome. JW Buckley knows it. Sean knows it. Marco knows it. What's going on, guys? Some regulars. Well, we got a lot to talk about. Been a busy week of arm wrestling. And so, once again, for those new to the podcast, this is the arm wrestling Reddit page. It's basically a giant forum where people make posts about arm wrestling. They link videos, ask questions, and you can upvote or downvote it. And we are going to look at the most upvoted posts first, and then we're going to get into some community questions. So hang around and you will learn a little bit about arm wrestling too. So the first and most upvoted post, unsurprisingly, is Lavon getting injured. And I assume you heard the news, Derek, but Lavon doing some major wrist curls here. It's not a graphic injury, so don't worry about that. But yeah, that's a good freeze right there. 44%. What's going on, Emiliano? So this is about one frame before Lavon gets injured. And I don't know how much. You know how much that dumbbell was?
I think it's about 400 pounds.
That sounds about right. Maybe. Yeah, that sounds about right. Normally he has two people hoist it on for him. So I don't know. But man, dude, this is brutal. This is a major hit for the arm wrestling community. That's our guy right there.
Has he released exactly what the injury is or what happened?
Yeah, he put out a video. He said, I mean, it's hard with the translation, but he said it wasn't like his main tendon, but I mean, you can even see it in the video. Something let go, and the pictures afterwards, it's purple. It's a lot of bruising. So I'm guessing he's out for at least a year before we see him in any kind of extreme capacity. Have you ever dealt with like a serious tear like that, Derek?
No, nothing's made me black and blue. I think I've done the traditional elbow popping, which had like a little bruise on there, but that's about it. Nothing super serious, thank God.
Yeah. So poor Lavon, man, and it raises the obvious question: who the heck is number one now? Who is number one? It was very easy to answer that as of last week. Not so much anymore. So yeah. JW Bucky says you can hear it clear as a bell. Yeah, don't watch this video if you're queasy. In the audio department, visually it's not bad, but my God, it really went.
Oh, so I don't like watching injury videos. I stay away. People send me, especially like non-arm wrestler friends. Oh, someone broke their arm on the internet. Let me send this to Derek. I know he arm wrestles. Like as if I'm dying to see arm breaks. I never watch. Never.
Well, yeah, that's why we have that rule on the subreddit. People just try to spam arm break videos to collect upvotes, and it's like, we get it. Everyone gets it. This can happen. I don't know what value that's providing to the community, but yeah. So Jerry, is he number one? Hermes?
I mean, that's the one that we're gonna find out. I mean, and like it's such styles make matchups. I mean, I know Hermes gave Lavon hell, and Jerry, but like the styles are all gonna be crazy because there's Hermes. I still would love to see Alex Kudetch and Hermes again. I know everybody gives me crap about that because in a practice, Hermes is destroying him. But I think that stylistically, in a ready to go, like Alex's style is horrible for Hermes. And then there's people I think that beat Alex. So like I think anybody besides Lavon, the styles get really weird, and a lot of things can happen depending on who's arm wrestling. So I don't think it's a clear who's number one if Lavon's out. I don't think it's clear.
Yeah, I don't think Jerry's ever been considered number one in the world in his career at any point, right? I mean, he was in with John and Devin, so I don't think he was ever really thought of as number one. So if he beats Hermes, I think it's clear. So huge opportunity for Jerry coming up. Moving on to the next thing here, Devin and Bart funny meetup. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but we'll play this real quick. Get some audio.
What the fuck are you doing here? What the fuck are you doing here?
Having fun, man.
You are the enemy in all ways of the word,
man.
Bart.
I can't wait to be at the table with you again.
Hey,
look how straight your wrist is. That's a
it's
first.
perfectly straight.
That's a first, everybody.
Just say go. Hey, do you want to come to East versus West? Would you be nice to me this time? You know how you're always trying to fuck me over?
Oh, Jesus. Got you.
Would you be the guy?
I would never screw you over. Ever.
Angan.
Ever.
That's your guy. That is your guy.
Bart Wood at East vs. West. What do you think about that, Derek? Sorry for the language to all the children watching.
I mean, I like that they're trying to bring over Western refs anyway. It's not even that like Western refs are better than the other guys. It's just to get some of the argument, about the people being biased and stuff like that, refs being biased. So okay, let's bring some Western refs over there. But I think the guys in the East do a fantastic job. There's a ton of WAF certified badass refs over there. So I mean, yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be cool to see some Western refs, but I mean, it's the same. I think refereeing's the same where you go. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some bad ones, but most of them are pretty good. Yeah.
Right. It sucks that it matters. It sucks that people feel the need to bring over Western refs. Ideally, it shouldn't matter. Ideally, they'd be basically robots, and just doing the same thing no matter who it is.
Right.
But that's not the case. But yeah, I don't know. Bart's the most controversial ref we got. People think he's terrible because of the whole WAL situation, but you got to remember, he was coached to be that way. He was coached to let a ton of stuff slide and to not call just about anything. So from what I hear, I don't think he's ever reffed one of my matches, but from what I hear, he's a decent ref when he's not hamstrung by corporate whatever. But yeah, interesting stuff. What is going on with Devin? What is going on with this man?
One, he's looking jacked, bro. I mean, he's 47, so he's 10 years older than me, so he's like 47-ish. And dude's in good shape, man. I mean, I know he's getting a little crazy with the necklace and the glasses, but
yeah,
man, I've never looked at shape when I was 18. So I mean, I don't know if I can reach that. So.
Yeah, no, I'll take that. If I can be in my late 40s looking like that, I'll do it. And heck, I'll rock a giant gold chain too as well. Why not? If you got it, flaunt it, Devin. What do you call this move, Derek? What do you call this? Jamie, he pulled it off. What is this? What's going on here?
Yeah, Jamie posted that the other day. I'm trying to think what happened. I mean, I guess in terms of safety, you're supposed to stay with your hand, your face connected to your hand, and stay tight. So I guess somehow you can end up in this. It reminds me of that video that Devin did with Juji where he pulls him across the table and he goes flying.
Yes, that's exactly what I couldn't put my finger on it. That's exactly it.
That's funny.
Also, this is the most badass picture Jamie Sheldon could have ever asked for. This should be his profile picture. They should have this at their house on the fridge. My goodness. Could you ask for a better action shot?
I wanted to so my dream, this is kind of off topic but on topic at the same time. I've been for years wanting someone. I need an artist that can paint like really they look real paintings, like I don't know what's the word for it, like realistic paintings.
Realism.
Yeah, and I want one where I'm arm wrestling somebody. I'm not sure who. Maybe it's Lavon or something. I love this dude. But I want it freeze frame where right where I'm looking jacked and juicy, looking good, and I'm pulling so hard that literally the connective tissue of his arm is getting ripped off. It's not breaking, it's getting ripped off his body. So there's blood squirting and stuff like that. And he's like, he's like freaking out. And I'm just like looking at the screen like, and there's people in the crowd. And like one person's vomiting, another person's like hiding their child. Someone's like fainting and stuff like that, on the background. And I'm just looking beast mode. And maybe have it be Devin. But I want that in a huge painting. I'll put it above like my couch or above my bed. It just make me look like a beast. I want that.
Yeah. I wonder how Bridget would feel about that. Also, probably bad timing now with Lavon actually getting injured to make a painting of him with his ligaments getting ripped off. But we all know what you mean, man. All right. So, Devin and John sparring at the East versus West finals.
Settle down.
So I don't know. It looked to me like John had the upper hand there outside the strap, but then they do go into a strap and the Devin show. It's the Devin show from there. We know what he does. So,
I watched this video, and there's an interesting part in there that even outside the straps, if John stays committed to a hook without pronating up and out, Devin looked rock solid. And that's an interesting angle because, and in the more videos I've been watching recently of Devin, he's been doing more and more hooking, like more traditional hooking with people.
Yeah,
And he has a match coming up with Gennady, and I mean, I know he's a match with Dave. I don't think he's going to try to just sit there and control Dave, but I think it's inevitable and inarguable that he's going to have some kind of more traditional strength to deal with Gennady. I think he understands that he can't just be all the way out or all the way in. He has to have something else a little bit, and I think it looks like he's embracing that. I don't think it's for the Dave match. I think it's for the Gennady match. But I hope everybody else is noticing this too. Devin is hooking suddenly.
Yeah.
He's letting people get on his arm and stuff. He's not trying to roll out all the time, which is interesting to watch.
It is interesting. And what he used to do, right? He used to be all about inside pulling. He'd dive in, and then he cited his elbow surgery as the reason he couldn't do that anymore.
Right.
He said everything got loose after his elbow surgery. What was that, like 2015 or something like that? I wonder if things are now just starting to tighten up, right? It's been, what, eight years or so? So
maybe he'll stop being such a sissy and pull inside, Devin, like a man.
Give
all right?
People, hear that? Give the people what they want, Devin. Yeah, we didn't see him really King's move out. Well, against Prunick, he went pretty outside, but not so much.
And he tried it, like, was it round 1 or round 2 against Gennady, and then he kept getting pushed off the pad. And he's like, and you realize with that angle Gennady was pressing, he was just to keep elbow fouling the whole time.
Right.
And I thought years ago, about, man, what if that was the thing? What if you go for a press and you push towards him a little bit? I'm saying it is kind of cheap, but King's move was kind of cheap. So I mean, I'm just saying, if he was elbow fouling each time, all right, King's moves out. Now what? And Gennady exploited that. So,
have you ever hit a King's move in a match, Derek, intentionally?
What? No. I've never even trained it. But I did have a match back when I was like 2 or 3 years into the sport, where I was trying to hook someone, and he was hooking, and he went back, and I opened, and he opened, and he opened it, and all of a sudden I was down there, and I was like, and I told Gary Roberts right after he was filming it, and I stood up, I said, Gary, erase that from all your footage. I want no evidence that ever existed.
Okay, so we got to give Gary a call. Dennis spotted at his day job. What is the context behind this? I don't know.
Just being strong.
Yeah. I don't know if this is one of the AI things, but
you would need. Goodness. I mean, what would the guy actually have to look like to be able to hold? I mean, obviously it's 4 points, so it's impossible. Like it couldn't even be Lavon. It'd have to be someone drawn like, I don't know what they'd have to be drawn like. They'd have to be able to handle that. That'd be wild.
Yeah, it's a lot of, I don't know, ulnar deviation, a little bit of finger flexion there.
Well, I'm just saying because they tried to make sure he was jacked, but he'd have to be way more jacked than that. If you're going to try it all to actually make it like it makes sense, he'd have to be way more jacked than that.
Right. He's got 180 pounds at the end of a lever. Come on, guys. This is unrealistic. He would be way more jacked.
You might as well just make him like skinny with no muscle.
Yeah. The only unrealistic thing is that he's not jacked enough.
Did you watch that video right there? The paragliding one?
Yeah.
I showed that to everybody in my work. That is crazy.
Yeah, this is so the title of the post by former print is "Found a motivating way to train my grip. Anyone else have unusual training methods?"
Yeah, the guy forgets to hook up his harness, right? And they take off the paragliding, and he's holding on now for dear life, just with his hands onto the other person that's controlling it. And they get even higher than this. They go fully above the city. And the person can't seem to steer it or land it. And dude, can you imagine the grip? Like how hard you'd be squeezing?
No, honestly, it's impressive because I don't know if you've ever just held as long as you can on a bar. Like getting over a minute is impressive.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to see if he's attached anywhere. I think he's quite literally just holding on to this dude. And then there's the wind resistance too. This is actually quite a feat of strength here.
The driver or whatever tries to put their hand on top of his hand to help hold his fingers tight and not let him go. But like that's so wild. Look at this. They're getting even higher. That is so scary.
This is death height. I'm sorry. If you drop from here, you're not going to be okay at the end of it.
No, yeah, that's for sure.
So yeah, long story short, he eventually lets go, falls to his death, and that's the end of it.
No, they land it, and he does a tuck and roll.
Yeah. So they do they do come down, and then boom.
I don't know if he rolls, more of a flop and break.
But so tying that into actual arm wrestling, do you so? Sometimes at the end of a workout, we have these rock climbing holds at my gym.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just hold with like a bit of my fingertip on there until I fatigue. You ever do that? You think there's value in that? Like memes aside, would this actually be good arm wrestling training?
Can you imagine my giant ass walking over and just seeing me dangle from? Like, can you even imagine? If you can't even imagine it, then it doesn't happen. Right? You can't even imagine it. It's not happening. But I understand what you're saying. A little burnout thing with the hand and grip. No, I do stuff with my fingers to failure with the barbell and stuff, so I don't do hands.
Okay. All right, why don't we get into some community questions here? Is there anything else I really want to look at here? A lot of memes and stuff. All right, let's get into some questions here. Posted by U144I. He says, why do many players train chest and upper body muscles in arm wrestling? Don't we only use arms and shoulders? Why do we always see players like Dennis, Lavon, and Jerry training back, chest, and other upper body muscles? Isn't it only the arms and shoulders we use in arm wrestling? Now, I know this guy who's going for a 500-pound bench press, and I wonder if that's related at all. Do you know this guy?
Yeah. I mean, that's the funny thing is that's my goal. I want to get a 500-pound bench, which I mean, Jerry's is I think well above that. Lavon's well above that. I think I'm cool with the 500-pound bench. I think it'd be enough. But to answer this guy's question, chest and upper body muscles in arm wrestling. You pretty much use in some facet almost every muscle in your body for arm wrestling in terms of tightening up and positioning and things like that. Now, in terms of most important muscles in arm wrestling, starts at the fingertip and gets less important as you go down to the shoulder, down the body, down to your toes, right? But in general, you want everything to be strong. Your chest is a major player on internal rotation and adduction of your elbow, which is side pressure, right? Your ability to actually pin someone and go sideways. Those muscles are driven from your chest, your subscapularis, a little bit of your lat. So those are things to be trained. So it said wide back. I mean, your lat, not only to drive your elbow back, which is amazing in all styles of arm wrestling, especially strap arm wrestling, but also, like I said, your lat plays a part in internal rotation as well. It helps spin the inside of your arm. So, I mean, to think it's only arms and shoulders just means you have an inadequate knowledge of the anatomy and how muscles work kind of in the body, or you're not an experienced arm wrestler and you don't understand the angles and movements that are being applied. But yeah, it's all this, and then your core to tighten up, your traps for even more adduction to keep your shoulders in place. Like it can keep going and going. Back, lower back to lean back and brace on the table. You can drive off your legs and you wrap your legs around the table. There's a million different ways we use our entire body for arm wrestling. Actually, I don't know if we use calves a lot, but I'm sure I can't think of a scenario how we use calves really hard. Maybe if I'm driving really hard to the side, my legs out, and I'm driving side pressure.
Yeah, if you need a riser and there isn't one.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
But yeah, I mean, so it's just what's most important, right? So people ask me things all the time, like, do you do deadlifts and squats? Not that they're bad for you, not at all. It's just like in terms of I have priorities, and if I get to a deadlift or a squat in my priority list, then cool, I'll do them. But a lot of times, it's not my highest priority. Yeah. What about you, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, even to answer this guy's question, we only use arms and shoulders. You know, at the bottom of a bench, your elbows are flexed, right? And then you're going to extend at the start of a pull-up. Your elbows are extended, and then you're going to come in and flex them. So you're still getting elbow flexion, elbow extension through that motion. It's also going to train coordination. You want to be able to use muscles at the same time. So, I mean, there's a lot of value in isolating each muscle group, but doing these compound lifts, as they're called, is also really valuable just for the coordination, just to put more weight than you could on a normal lift. You know, you're going to be able to row more than you can just bicep curl, and having a lot of weight on your body is good for your central nervous system. And it's also good for your connective tissue. One of the best way to build connective tissue is through heavy weights. There's actually value in just putting a ton of weight on and just holding it for a few seconds. I read a study where that actually had a lot of benefit to building tendon strength. So you'll see people doing partial reps with a really heavy weight, and you'll be like, oh, that's 0 reps. None of those count. There is value in it, and I actually do it sometimes. I'll put a ton of weight on, and like on a preacher curl, and just go over and hold for a few seconds and then stop, just to put that kind of strain on my connective tissue on a weight that I would normally never touch. So I hope that answers your question, U144I. Thank you for participating in the subreddit. Let's move on to our next one here. What is up with Matt Mask? I mean, he used to be a pretty good arm wrestler on the days of WAL, and now he is bigger, just look at his forearms, but pretty much losing in every professional match. This question posted by this Wordliness 633, and he killed it at the East vs. West qualifiers on Saturday, right? He is the 242 hand winner, and looked really good. Looked super dominant, but yeah, he did an interview with Engen. I can't remember if it was Engen or not, and they were asking this exact question, like, what's going on? And A, he's a busy dude, got a really busy life, and B, what he thinks the problem is that he is so strong at his club that he lets everyone hit into him. He is constantly catching, he's constantly playing the defense because he's so much stronger. If he were to hit, he would just flash everyone at his club. So he said that's caused a really bad kind of muscle memory or just instinct to let his opponent hit into him and him play defensive and bring it back. And so he said he's been working with a coach the past few months to fix that, to think offensively and to find training methods to train a hit to overcome it. And we're going to see the results of that because he did win the East vs. West qualifier. So he'll be back at the East vs. West super match series. But yeah, so definitely on a bit of a losing streak against elite pullers, keep in mind. But hopefully he's fixing those holes. Any thoughts there, Derek? Sorry for the rant.
No, it's all good. The list. I mean, the list of pullers he's arm wrestling is like who he's lost to is like a huge shocker. That's like way below Matt. Like, you know what I mean? Like everybody, multiple WAF champion, world champions. The list is insane. I mean, and Matt is fantastic. I think Matt is potential. He could go even higher than he's ever been. But it's just like those guys are amazing arm wrestlers that he's losing to, and especially, I mean, speaking to his point of him, allowing people to get in their spot. Yeah, you allow Jordan Sonev to get into his spot and then try to roll him out. Good luck. You allow pretty much any of these guys he's competing with to get in their spot or not fire off. Good luck with any of them, right? So, I mean, people are being way too harsh with Matt. He's an arm wrestler, man. People's, like mine, your career goes ups and downs, and I have no problem believing that Matt is going to be back to some very high level and winning. Not that he's already not at a high level. I'm saying that but winning more of his matches. I think Matt's best years are not behind him. I think he still has some stuff to come up. So
yeah, he also built his reputation in that WAL bubble, and now the arm wrestling world is much bigger than it used to be, and we're crossing the ocean. And it's not just Matt. I mean, the West in general is really waking up to a whole new batch of pullers that we couldn't pull before because of the WAL PAL split. So it's not necessarily, he may even be better. Like maybe the Matt Mask today beats the other Matt Mask. It's just he's being put against these monsters, and so it relatively doesn't look as impressive. But all right, we have a user here, V Stouff. He says, okay, I've posted here before asking for training advice as well as checked out the wiki and bio for additional info. This dude is hungry, but he still has some questions. He still has questions after all that research. Is it possible to train for power building and still be a good arm wrestler? At what point should I start incorporating more advanced training like resistance band, speed training, static holds, etc.? So we'll start there because there's like 4 more questions in here. Power building, right? So that's the combination of powerlifting and bodybuilding, right? So it's kind of bro split, but heavy and lower reps, if I understand my gym terminology correctly.
Right.
So is it possible to train for power building and still be a good arm wrestler? Derek, you want to start on this one?
Yeah, he says good arm wrestler. Not great, not world champion, but good. Yeah, of course, man. You can go be good at it and just head into practice, get your practice in maybe once a week. If you can still, I mean, you said you're a teenager, so I'm imagining you're healing pretty quick compared to older guys. So yeah, if you could hit practice once a week, give it a day off, and then start working on all your power building techniques 100%. It's just if you ever want to cross that threshold of being great, being elite, making arm wrestling your main thing, then focusing on these like the more bro gym lifts and things like that and things for aesthetics kind of fall off, and it's just about getting more sports specific and getting stronger for arm wrestling specifically. But yeah, you can be good and do power building 100%.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Chandler is a competitor, or was a competitive bodybuilder and very successful arm wrestler. It just depends where you're going to put the focus because it's going to hurt. Your arms are going to be blown up in a way that you probably haven't felt before after an arm wrestling practice, and that's going to inhibit your power building. So it's like, are you going to say, hey, I don't want to hurt for the next week, so I'm going to skip practice? Or are you willing to take the hit on the power building side and go to practice? So it's going to be up to you where you kind of prioritize your time, but it's absolutely possible. He also asks, I'm in my teens at the moment with consistent training. How long would it reasonably take for me to become competent compared to others in my weight class? So he's in his teens. Whenever I hear that, I'm reminded of that 17-year-old who almost like beat Devin Larratt in a tournament. I think it was in Kentucky or something.
Yeah.
His name's escaping me, but what the hell? So yeah, to answer your question, it totally depends. Some people, it takes them years to become competent. Some people, 6 months into it, they're already out of the amateurs and beating some pros. You're not going to know until you start. And again, it's going to come down to how much focus you put on it. But there's really no path. This is such a interesting, different sport. If anyone who tells you how long it's going to take to get to X level is just lying to you.
Yeah.
Derek, agree, disagree?
Completely disagree with everything you always say.
Oh, wait. Why do we even do this?
No, it's yeah, I mean, you're right. It's also when he says competent within my weight class, which, you know, are you on a national scale, international scale, local scale, right? So that's the first question I would ask when you're saying in your weight class. But if you're talking about you just going to a local tournament and you doing okay, you getting placing reasonably, so what, 5th place is reasonable or something like that, then yeah, and then you're talking about in amateurs or pros, not mentioning that.
Presumably amateurs.
Yeah. So, dude, I mean, that it depends on what level you come in at, how much work you're putting into, so when you say how long would it take, if you're going to one practice and sitting around and watching TV the rest of the week and you're practicing for 30 minutes, or, you know, I mean, it all depends on you, man. That question is up to you. Now, I would say you're, you know, 15, 16 years old, you've never lifted weights in your life, you're brand new to any kind of physical activity whatsoever. Then the fastest, we'll say that you're practicing every week, you're in the gym every day, you're taking creatine, you're doing all the things. Then I would say the fastest would be, we'll say 5 months, 6 months, right? To be competent in a local weight class, right? I guess that'd be average. But like I said, it really depends on you and your life and who you are and what you're all about and how this is going. So, but some guys, I mean, I've known guys that have been on arm wrestling for 7 years that are still barely competent in their weight class. You know what I mean? So it depends on how you do it, man.
Yeah. Yep. And finally, we'll answer one more from this guy. So there isn't a realistic way for me to set up a table pulley at my gym. Can I still train effectively without one? And you are wrong, my friend. So I got a buddy, Mike Shaloub. He built a tripod with an arm wrestling elbow pad on top of it. I kid you not, which he let me use. And I brought it to the gym. You guys think you get weird looks when you do arm wrestling lifts at the gym? Imagine walking in with like a 4-foot tall tripod with an elbow pad on top of it, unfolding it, sitting in front of a cable machine, and doing posting exercises. So if there's a will, there's a way, Stouff. But realistically, yes, of course you can train. Get on the table. I don't know if this dude's training with a club or not, but you want to get some table practice in because then you'll know what to look for. You'll understand how much you can move your elbow around, and you'll know at the gym if you're hitting your muscles in a way that feels like they are when you're at practice, right? So early on, definitely prioritize practice because otherwise you won't even know what to look for in the gym. Anything to add to that, Derek?
I don't train with a table at the gym ever. I had a table at the gym one time, a half table, but yeah, no, I don't do it at the table. If I use a table, I go to practice, or I do have a pulley system in my house at the table, but things get rust on it. So yeah, I mean, I don't think it's imperative to have that. But learn how to arm wrestle on a table at practice and get used to a table for sure.
There you go. As an arm wrestler, do you train legs? And this was actually a poll posted by Stan Marsh. So we'll go over the results first. This had 501 votes here, so this is a decent sample size. 133 said no. 222 said yes with weight training. 51 said yes, calisthenics, jumping, things like that. 37% said yes, endurance training, so like running. And then 58 said sometimes. So where do you fall here, Derek?
I actually voted in this. And the real answer, I guess, would be sometimes. But pretty much I put no. I voted no. But I've been doing the only reason I've been doing squats every once in a while is for my lower back. I'm not really doing them for my legs that much. I do front squats, so I focus on keeping my chest up and it taxes my lower back. And I do 135 pounds, 3 sets of 10. That's it, right? I'm not doing anything wild at all. Just getting some movement in. But that's for an injury thing. But if my lower back was feeling strong and good to go, I probably would not be doing legs at all, which I haven't done for years. Now, are there reasons to do legs? Of course, to build up your core, to build up the biggest muscles in your body, to release more testosterone, to work on your CNS and tag. Like, yes, there's definitely reasons to work legs. Like I said earlier, though, priority list, I'd rather go do grip or hammer curl training or this and that before legs is down the list a good amount, right? So, like I said, there is a point to doing it. It's just not on my list right now, right?
Yep.
So, for me, yeah. So, for me, it'd be no. Just I put no.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I hit them ancillary training, I suppose. I'll do cleans and then hit a front squat with it and then an overhead press. And then there's the deadlift aspect of the clean and I'll do some calf stuff. So I don't focus legs. I used to do just a typical bro split, but arm wrestling has a way of just consuming your life as you get more and more into it. And now I just pretty much, if I'm at the gym, I'm doing something pretty closely related to arm wrestling. But we're also big dudes, right? We get leg exercises going up the stairs and stuff, so that counts.
Yeah, a couple of gigantic jack dudes, right? I mean, you.
Yeah, right. So just walking around is leg day for us. How do I train my fingers? Asks New Zealand 59952. How do I train my fingers? So interestingly, I whipped out an old piece of equipment that I had forgotten about today at the gym, and I was like, man, I need to do this more. First of all, see if I can ISO Derek here. You see that, folks? Look at him. He always has it on deck. Always keeps it with him.
Dude, I got a row of grippers right here.
Yep.
And look at fingertips, right? I don't put it deep in my hand like this, right? Fingertips. What's the weakest point in your hand? If you're a top roller, you're trying to top roll a hook puller, you target fingertips. So when you train your grip, you don't want this last digit right here to fold backwards like this, right? You need to be strong to your fingertips so that one doesn't fold. There's so many people I see grip tight, and then you'll see their hands fold like this, and then you lose about 1.5 inches of coverage. Everything needs to be trained to your fingertips to have that much coverage and be solid to the end of it. Because any efficient top roller is going to go backwards and hit your fingertips to pry that out. So I train everything and this is just a light like Walmart gripper. I have the crazy heavy ones, and if you guys follow my live streams, you guys know I do those. But I just sit there, everything fingertips, flop it upside down, fingertips, all times, right? So I'm used to this never bending backwards. But yeah, dude, fingers all the time. And I do the barbell thing where I unrack a bench bar, let it roll down my fingertips as far as it can go before it's about to slip, and then grip it up. And you could either supinate into the bar or pronate into the bar, so it's in your top two. Supinate would be in your bottom two, and just let it roll and grip, roll and grip. So it's not the biggest player, but there are definitely scenarios where you'd rather have grip and not need it than need it not have it, right? So train it, I think.
Here you go. Yeah, Tim Bresnan also does that barbell hold where you roll.
I got it from him.
I got it. Yeah, same here. He told me that's one of his favorite things to do, and I've put it in, and you feel it. My goodness, you feel it. Mm-hmm. So besides grippers, I whipped out of my gym bag today Talon grips. Does that name ring any bells, Derek? Nah, most people don't know about it. I got this from Craig Touye, so credit to him. It is like a nylon strap that has a loop for each finger, and you put each finger in individually, so you have full digital movement here. And then you can do pull-ups, you can do wrist flexion, and it basically doesn't allow you to subsidize your one finger with another finger. And I'll even isolate. I'll put one finger in. You want to talk about weirdo gym stuff? I'll put one finger in at a time and do finger flexion with each finger, honestly, just to figure out where the weak spot is, right?
If I walk into a gym and I see you doing one finger flexes, I'm throwing my protein shake at you, and I'm quitting the gym right away. What is this guy doing? No, you don't understand me. I'm an arm wrestler. just back off, man. This is specific training.
Listen, I'm an athlete. I know what I'm doing.
I'm a professional athlete. Back off.
Listen, but the reason I do that is honestly, it's just to find the weak spots,
right? To
try to see if there's a weak link in that chain. But really, I mean, doing the pull-ups with them, again, I think they're called Talon grips, but man, you feel it like crazy in the fingers. So highly recommend doing that. But yeah, hope that answers your question. NZ59952. Wrist wrench too. I don't know if we talked about a wrist wrench, but that's a classic. All right, we got a user submitted video. So let's roast this guy and make him quit arm wrestling. Does this riser lift look correct? So
obviously you need more water. Empty water bottle slides. I'm not feeling it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but the riser lift. Okay. Not bad. Okay, elbow in front of the leg. That's not bad. I mean, it's static rising, right? So I don't know if you're going for a concentric rise. It's more you're holding the static, but it is taxing your rise for sure. He wrapped around his wrist the way Devin did and shows. That's not bad at all. I think that's pretty good. Now, I don't know if you're trying, because you're keeping it static and doing like a hammer curl with it, which is taxing it, but you could also go static to high if you want to do more of a concentric movement. But yeah, I think that's good. I think that taxes your riser efficiently. What do you think?
Yeah, so I'm looking at his wrist here. One thing that my girlfriend actually caught me doing is anytime I was doing a wrist, a lift like that, hitting that, radial deviation, your riser, I would kick my wrist back just naturally. And the more you flex your wrist, it becomes exponentially more difficult to do. So It's hard to tell from this kind of grainy video, but just be careful you're not kicking your wrist back too much when doing that. Maybe you had the same problem I did. I mean, I had to drop my weight by like 30% as soon as I went back to straight. So I think it's probably wise to train that in the position you would be at the start of a match, right? So don't train it like this, train it there, because for me at least it was significantly more difficult. But yeah, no, I think that's a clean lift. You're not cheating. You're controlled on the way down too. A lot of people just across the board in exercise, they just let gravity do the work on the way down and completely miss the eccentric part. You're controlling it. Everything looks solid to me, man. Nice lift. No relationship. 2-4-2-1. I hope you find a nice girl. Keep doing those lifts and you will. Okay, so we got the one from Masai asks, are those super heavy weights really necessary? Zauer tore his biceps, Lavon injured his wrists, Jerry his pec, etc. I understand you can't really avoid injuries, but using those incredibly heavy weights seems to increase the chances. Other athletes don't exaggerate with weights. For example, Hermes avoids even his cable back pressure PR in other low rep exercises, not only to decrease the risk of injury, but even inflammation, and his strength seems to grow nevertheless. So, considering the benefit-risk ratio, maybe those super heavy weights are not so worthy. In the case of Lavon, you know your arm, hand, and wrist are already super strong and on another level. Do you really need to push those 1 to 3 rep huge weights? Whew. So, heavy weights. We were talking about that earlier. Yeah, it's a risk reward. Obviously, the heavier the weight, the higher the chance of injury. When you get up there, I mean, you got to be careful. One big problem is if your muscles outpace your tendons and ligaments, the ligament will go. We see it all the time. So I don't know. Like I said, I do heavy weights, but for me, a heavyweight is not anything like a Lavon heavyweight. And there may be just some human limits that once you get to a certain point, they just can't go beyond that. I don't know, Derek. Are we seeing too many injuries in the heavyweight, super heavyweights?
That's the name of the game, man. This is a strength sport / combat sport. But in terms of the training part, I mean, it's a strength sport, man. And go look at powerlifting, go look at strongman, and say don't lift heavy weights. You know what I mean? Like that's part of the name of the game. Hermes still lifts insanely heavy weights. He might do a few more reps, but still the numbers he's putting up in his lifts are still astronomical. Are still crazy heavy. Would still tear, your or my tendon probably if we try to go max effort on Hermes weights right now. So it's still super heavy weight. Yeah. So Lavon is going for 2 less reps than Hermes. It's not, like it's a world of difference, right? But if the one consistent thing I've said for years across all arm wrestling training methodology is there's table time, there's replicating arm wrestling by using pulleys, and then there's like isolated gym movements. Those are kind of the 3 approaches to arm wrestling training for the most part, right? And they get a little messy, and some people try to mix them, but that's pretty much a 3. But there is nobody that has made it to the top of arm wrestling without having some heavy ass resistance. It just does not exist, right? Now that heavy resistance can be on the table. John Brzezinski, I got pure table time with world champions, with Kevin Bongard, with Todd Hutchings, with guys that are providing world level resistance in his arm, heavy lifting, right? Devin even used to do heavy lifting, gym heavy lifting. Now he's doing heavy table pulleys and heavy table sessions, right? Heavy lifting. There's no way around lifting, crap your pants, blood bursting weights. At some point, you have to push yourself and push your CNS and tear the muscles down, and your body has to grow and try to handle these challenges, right? And so, I think heavyweight is necessary. I think doing it intelligently. I think doing it slowly, letting your body adjust to it. You got to also remember, and I'm not talking about just Lavon or Zauer or anything like that, but a lot of guys, especially if they're taking steroids, your muscles grow faster than your tendons, right? It's like putting a dragster engine in a go-kart frame. If it can't get the power to the wheels because the tendons have to be big enough to handle that much muscle. So things pop and snap and break and rip, right? When your muscles are growing so fast and your tendons aren't ready. So I definitely always tell new guys and people that ask me, should I take steroids and things like that? I say, if that's something you want to do in the future, whatever, but build that frame. Don't be a go-kart frame. Build a NASCAR frame first before you start putting all that extra horsepower in there, so things don't start popping and snapping and twisting. But yeah, I think heavy resistance is unavoidable if you want to make it to any high level. I know about one arm wrestler. What's crazy? Dallas Langston does like sets of 20 to 25 consistently with lower weight. He's the only person I've ever met that does that. But he does arm wrestle probably like every 2 to 3 weeks. So I guess that's his heavy resistance. But yeah, Dow's the only guy I've ever met that's at like a really high level that does not insanely heavy weights, lots of reps.
Yeah.
Interesting.
No, well, it's a good point about the table. I mean, if you're giving max effort on a table, is that much different than? I mean, in fact, it might be even more dangerous than doing a linear motion with a dumbbell or something. A lot of it is ego. I'm not accusing these guys of ego lifting, but a lot of injuries that happen in the gym are you just want to get that rep. Everything else be damned. You're in the moment. Your adrenaline's high, and you're like, I'm just gonna get it. You got to learn to drop the weight. You got to learn to just say, no, I'm going to stop at 2 instead of 3, whatever the case is, and let your body recover. Don't overtrain. So these things can be avoided, and we see it. There are plenty of extremely strong lifters who don't have a history of injuries. All right, who has the most genetic potential? So it's a poll, and it's between Rayvaz, Ermes, and Artem Morozov. So 344 votes, 133 for Rayvaz, 60 for Ermes, and the winner, 151 votes for Artem Morozov. And I mean, Rayvaz, do you know how old he is? Like,
he's in his 30s. I think he's like 34, 33 or 34. I think.
Okay. So I can see why they chose Artem here because he's 24, right? So I guess just.
So you said genetic potential though. That means like if they're all born babies the same day. Who has the best potential to become elite arm wrestler, right? That's what genetic potential means. Not right now at this current day who has the most potential, right?
Yeah.
The way I take that question is like they're all just babies. Who has the most potential? And
yeah,
that would be Rayvaz. Right. That would be Rayvaz who has the biggest frame to be able to hold the most weight and stack on the most muscle, right? Now Morozov, if you're looking at it like right now, Morozov is obviously younger than the other two. He has a fantastic foundation and strength building capabilities, etc. But yeah, I mean, if you're just talking about all things basic, no, I'm not saying they're taking steroids, but we'll just say for the sake of the argument, they are. None of that involved or anything like that. Then Rayvaz is the biggest guy there, right? And so I would say Rayvaz.
Yeah, no, that makes more sense, and I assume that is the question. Yeah, Rayvaz, having now met him in person, dude, like a freak. I don't think people appreciate how freaking big that dude is. I mean, maybe they do now after what happened with Chafee, but my God, the dude is huge, and because he retired, right? And then he came out of retirement for one of those earlier East vs. West. And so we're seeing him really start to hit his stride. And I believe it was Lavon who said that if anyone's going to dethrone him, it's going to be Rayvaz. So, yeah, this dude is serious and may very well be number one if we have on the pulse in 2024 when we come back to this. So, all right, let's move on to the next question here. Pin pads or pin lines? Does this matter, Derek? So currently building my first arm wrestling table. I'm conflicted about having pin pads or pin lines. All the pictures of tables I've seen with pin lines have the handle on one side of the table instead of on top. So yeah, so the pad, which is just one solid, rectangular block, or just like a string. Do you have a preference? Does it matter? Easier for the ref to see the wrist on the pin line, perhaps?
In a tournament, I would probably prefer the pin line. For my practice tables, we've had pin lines. It gets broken. It ends up flopping and just dangling there because it's being smashed in so many times. So for a practice table, I'd probably rather have pin pads or something I can remove because a lot of times we'll take our pin pads off. But yeah, in an actual match where I care with the referee and stuff, a pin line would be nice because then not only can the ref see it, everybody can see it. There's refs complaining and stuff like that. You can see when the wrist line goes below that. So yeah, probably pin lines would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I think in my experience, they tend to break more, and I see a lot of them just wrapped around and tied in crappy knots. So be ready for that. But yeah, pin lines, that's my vote. This is an interesting one. Back pressure without pronation. This is from user Leonard Bathory. He says, so I just watched the video of Coach Ray talking about pronation and the importance of it. Also, you never see Devin Larratt nowadays training his back pressure without rise or pronation included. So my question is, does it actually make sense to isolate your back pressure without pronation and move weights that your pronation is not able to handle? So my answer would be yes, because there are going to be times where maybe you crack their wrist and your pronation isn't quite as important. You're still going to want a ton of back pressure. Maybe your wrist and pronator get compromised. You're still going to want that elbow flexion look at Hermes versus Lavon, right? Even though he lost his wrist, he lost his pronator, he had a ton of back pressure, which helped him a lot. If he never trained his back pressure beyond what his pronator could handle, he'd be missing out on a lot of opportunities. So yeah, while those things are often coupled, I think it's extremely important to train each one on their own and progress them as much as you can. Derek, don't tell me you disagree. Come on, dude.
No. It's not that I disagree. I have a different definition of back pressure than what I think what he's calling it is what I call posting pressure is what he's calling back pressure.
Mhm.
I consider back pressure your ability to bring your elbow to the back of a pad while maintaining this. That is back pressure training me, because that's your back doing the pressure, right?
But
not your brachialis doing the pressure. It would be your back doing the pressure. So when you say back pressure, that's what I immediately start thinking of. So it took me a second to reformat. Oh, he means posting pressure.
Presumably with the pronation. That's we could have a whole, because it's like sideways. I think back pressure just backwards, like to the back. So I mean, who cares? But let's assume he means posting. Is it proper to train posting without your pronator? Like, would you ever put the strap around your wrist, let your hand be free, and just post back on a cable?
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you ever watch a Travis Mason seminar, and he brought up a good point about this. I've told the story a few times. Like one day I called up Travis and I said, "Hey, I've never seen videos you train pronation." I was like, how'd you train pronation? I realized I've seen videos you doing much stuff, but I've never seen you doing pronation. Like, how do you hit it? And he goes, "Pronation? Man, I don't hit no pronation. It's stupid." He's like, "Arm wrestling and top rolling is you hammer curl backwards, their hand gives out, and then you go sideways with a tiny bit of pronation. Pronation." And I was like, so then it kind of got me thinking, in a top roll, it looks like it's so pronation based because the guy's wrist is all the way back here. But really, it's just a ton of hammer curling and posting. And then when they're maxed out and they're trying to hold on, they're trying to have trouble keeping their elbow down, their wrist is super weak at this point. It's a dash of pronation. But visually, it looks obvious. Now, that's why I would say there's more pronation. There's more pounds of pronation based in a deep hook with actually pronating than there is in a top roll. It just is more visually pronation based, right? But that first part, like I said, Travis Mason never really trained pronation. One of the best top rollers of all time, right? And you just out as hammer curl as hard as you can. Their wrist collapses, and then you roll it out. So no, I don't think you have to train pronation with your hammer curling. And like you said, in the Ermi situation, like if he'd only trained what his pronation can handle, then he would give it up a long time ago. All the elbow flexors are important. Pronation is an elbow flexor as well, right? And so to incorporate it a lot is just going to help further your elbow flexion in general, right? Your pronator teres goes down your arm here. It splits into two. The connection that goes above your elbow is an elbow flexor, right? And the one that goes below your elbow just focuses mainly on pronating your hand, right? So to train your pronator is to train your elbow flexor. To do a standard hammer curl is to train your pronator, right? Not isolated. It's not hitting it the best way possible, but it is hitting it, right? Because your pronator is an elbow flexor. So you just do a hammer curl, you're training your pronation somewhat, right? A little bit. But you can isolate it more by actually pronating things, right? But yeah, I mean, I think you need to train regular hammer curling and posting or back pressure or whatever. And it doesn't always have to be with pronation, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, you hit on a really important point there. If you can compromise one part of their game, oftentimes that's the only domino you need to get the rest. Like you said, a ton of back pressure. Then you might just need a little ounce of pronation to crack the wrist, because they're, all their focus, all their energy is just on, keeping the match near the center. Or if you can compromise their riser, all of a sudden their wrist flexion gets, less powerful. If your wrist is dumped, you don't quite have as much wrist flexion. So yeah, if you can win any part of the game, like you can kind of think of arm wrestling as a bunch of different battlefields: the riser game, the wrist flexion game, the pronation game, the side pressure, the front to back. If you can win as many of those as you can, and sometimes just winning one will make you give you momentum to win others as well. So
right.
Good answer there. Let's see. Any technical advice for a long arm top roller? I think I'm always on disadvantage with a long man. You can't win. If you're a short arm, you suck at top rolling. If you're a long arm, you suck at top rolling. No one's a good top roller. So this is from user Intermind17. He says, any technical advice or something, assuming that my opponent and I have the same strength/weight. My riser is always compromised by the ref's grip because the ref put both arms on center and I'm forced to down my wrist. So he's saying his hand would be too high, so the ref brings him down to get that webbing level. There you go. First mistake. He also says I have always the longer arm, so I'm forced to put my elbow at the back of the pad again to meet at the center.
Second mistake.
Oh, you're going to get it, Intermind. You don't know. All right, so I have no space for dragging. Do I need to focus on posting exercises only because of that? So he's saying he can't start with his elbow at the front of the pad and he doesn't get to drag. And then number 3, I'm good against hookers. I feel my longer arm has an advantage in that case. But nowadays, everyone is a top roller. So when my rise is compromised, my top roller opponent can drag me with his superior setup rise dragging space. I'm like a Georgi Tautiev body type. Whew, Derek, why are you giving him the buzzer, man?
Let me pull out my little hand friend here.
Oh, the hand's coming out. Hold on, we got to get you on solo layout.
So I tend to have pretty long arms, right? Me and Devin have the exact same tip of finger to elbow. We've measured a bunch of times, right? So the first thing was I dumped my riser, right? That's what he said. I think it was step number one.
Yeah.
When you are getting a grip, if you are at the front of the pad and you're up on the guy, and you close your hand, they're gonna be, with your riser engaged, they're gonna say you're covering my thumb knuckle, right? You're covering my thumb knuckle. You have to drop your riser. You don't need to drop your riser. You can push into his hand with your riser engaged still. Just show his thumb. Push down and push your pinky knuckle towards his body, right? And now you can still have your riser engaged and his knuckle is showing. You don't, and tall guys do this all the time, is that they're like, oh, you're too high up on his hand. And you're like, well, man. And that is exactly what they want you to do. No, keep your rise and push into him. Push this knuckle towards his chest and go knuckles up. So now his thumb knuckle is showing and your knuckles are still up. Now, the more you want to get your elbow vertical, right? You're saying you have to start at the back of the pad. As your elbow goes forward, you would have to compromise the rise a little bit, right? To get your elbow further forward. So say a guy is an insane hook puller, right? I know he's going to chop. Chop's coming in. All right, cool. I'll be low hand top rolling, which is fantastic against hook pullers, right? And I'll be sliding my elbow forward. Now, if someone is top rolling and they're trying to cover your thumb knuckle and they're going knuckles up, then cool. You eat in, you go knuckles up, and you push your elbow as far forward as you can. People are way too nice, and I love you referees, but people are way too nice to referees. In terms of they go, especially big guys, they're always so nice to everybody. Go up there and start with your forearm at the front of the pad, right? Make them dial you in to the inch, the centimeter that you need to be at. If you walk up and you put your elbow at the back of that pad, when you only really needed to go back like 2 inches from the front, then you are doing yourself a gigantic disservice. Have them dial you into the centimeter that you need to be as in terms of how far back or how low you need to be on his thumb. Have them dial you in. Don't just give them an extra bunch of space that you didn't need to give them at all, right? Also, mess around with the idea of having your arm slanted on the right side of the pad, right? So that it drops your height a little bit, right? So you don't always have to be vertical. You can have your elbow on the right side of the pad so it drops the height of your arm a little bit rather than always backwards. So mess around with that idea. But your first motion with a long arm top roller especially is to get your forearm vertical ASAP, right? So if you start with your riser up, but you're kind of lowered a little bit, first thing is up, right? To get that height, whether you're hooking or top rolling, whatever, you want to get your forearm vertical. As a long arm top roller or long arm puller in general, our advantage lies when our forearm is vertical. So that is the objective, to get our forearm vertical at some point and to get them to slide down so we can use that height. We got to get above them, right? That's the whole point. So there's a bunch of little tactics and tricks to get that stuff done. But yeah, don't always dump your riser, man. Keep your knuckles up and push into them so that way your knuckles go high, right? And then you can fight their rise. But a riser is not an offensive weapon in general. Pretty much when I talk to a lot of guys, they're like, my riser's no good. Are you trying to fight people's riser? Like, are you trying to plow through someone's riser with your riser? A riser is a very small muscle. It is something to be defensive, to hold static while you use other things to protect. You protect your riser. You don't fight with it, right? It is your heart. You don't fight with your heart, but you defend it. You keep it. You maintain it, right? So either static or up. I mean, either straight or up. Never dump all the way down, right? In terms of if rising is important. But yeah, you protect it, right? You're never gonna go right into someone's riser and outrise them. I've tried that, and that's how I tore my wrist twice. Don't do that. It's not that type of muscle. If someone has superior angles and leverage, and their forearm is vertical somehow, and yours isn't, and their knuckles are all the way up, and the ref's letting them start covering your thumb, don't try to outrise them. Your riser is not just gonna plow through their riser. It's not gonna happen. The odds of injury are very high, right? So a riser is something you maintain in the setup to protect, right? When you're arm wrestling. So anyway, there's some points.
Yeah, what he said. If you want to be cool and have the knowledge of Derek Smith, you got to check out the awswitch.com. This is Derek's project. You can check out all the swag, look like Derek, be like Derek, and be able to answer arm wrestling questions like Derek. So he's got a bunch of cool stuff here. Support the man. The dude does a ton for the community. He is the reason the Shaw Classic has arm wrestling at it. I mean, I'm saying it right now. I don't care, Derek. You are the reason. So yeah, check that out. Support Derek. Thank you guys for watching. This is the Arm Wrestling Switch. Next Monday, 6 p.m. will likely be on Derek's channel, so keep an eye out for that. The AW Derek, or just type in AW Derek. You can find his channel. And yeah, episode 10 in the books, man. I don't know if Aussie or Uncle John are coming on after this, but check them out. Anything else to add, Derek? Any parting messages?
No, man, I appreciate you plugging the website, you guys. Yeah, it's a little passion project for me and my lady Bridget. So yeah, you guys use discount code AWDerek on there, save yourself some money. And the quantity is all updated on the site right now, I believe, for the shirts and stuff and what we have available. But yeah, you guys, the quality of the shirts is super high. Everybody that's gotten these shirts has said it's super high. If Carolyn Looms was in here, she would be preaching about the stuff, about how much she loves it. She ordered like 3 or 4 more shirts just the other day. But yeah, thank you guys for all the support and everything. You guys, if you're not subscribed to Ryan's channel and you're in here, that's weird. Don't just peek through the window. Come on in and subscribe. This guy's doing the most. If you guys would have seen him at East vs. West, it's crazy. Like, he did the most. We'll just put it that way. He did the most. He's an assistant, but that needs an assistant. You know what I mean? Like,
tell that to Engen, man. Thank you, Derek. Yeah, so apparently Aussie's going live in 1 minute. Again, guys, this is the Arm Wrestling Pulse, Mondays, 6 p.m. Eastern, alternating between our 2 channels. Thank you guys for tuning in. We got a bunch more next time. Yeah, tell Aussie we sent you. See you, everyone.
See you guys.